Evening, folks. We'll just give it a minute. There's still quite a number of people joining. Apologies for the slightly late start, but we'll get going as soon as we've got everything. Okay, good evening and welcome to this Facebook Live event, PCS Facebook Live. I'm Fran Heathcote, President of PCS, and I'm really pleased that so many of you could join us tonight. Obviously, we've got a lot to discuss, and the way we intend to do it is in a minute, I'll be introducing our General Secretary, Mark Swatka. I'll be introducing one of our recent first-time strikers, Gary Virgo, and then we'll make sure there's plenty of time for your questions, comments, contributions. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, please don't send them to me directly. I don't receive them. Send them to the admin, who will put their details in the chat. They will fill them through to me, and we'll get through as many of those as we can. So, as I say, really, really important time for us in terms of everything that's going on, and no doubt lots of discussion and lots of questions that people will have about the logistics of how all this works. I think the last time PCS took national action was 2014, so we know there'll be a number of you that perhaps haven't done this before, but even if you have, it hasn't been for a while, and since then we've had the anti-trade union legislation that's been introduced. So, as I say, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to our General Secretary, Mark Swatka. Mark's going to take you through everything, and then I will introduce Gary. Over to you, Mark. Sorry.
Thanks ever so much, Fran, and good evening to everyone. Just on a technical side, I'm not sure if somebody isn't muted who needs to be, because there's a bit of background noise. But just first of all, can I welcome everyone, because it's a fantastic turnout tonight. I know we had 1,000 people pre-registered. We're doing this on Zoom and on Facebook Live, and this will be one of the biggest events like this that we have had. So really welcome to everyone, and thank you all for giving up your time to come and listen to what we have to say tonight. And what we want to do, this is a pre-strike rally that gives us the opportunity to update all members on why we're going on strike, what the government is currently saying, because we've exchanged letters with them this week, why the strike on the 1st of February is so important, and to give people a chance not just to hear those reasons again, but to ask any practical questions that people have. Because we know, Fran, from the communications we're having from lots of members, you know, many thousands of people will be going on strike for the first time. As you said, it's the first national strike we've had since 2014. And so we do want people to not just be able to ask questions tonight, but because we probably won't be able to get through them all, is to give us through the chat or through email anything that you need reassuring about, so we can make sure that somebody can get back to you directly. So if you don't get your question answered tonight, do contact us to make sure we can deal with it. But first of all, let's start on an upbeat note, because we're talking about strike action next week, and we're going to reflect on the amazing strike action that has already been taken by 5,000 PCS members already on everyone's behalf. But obviously the purpose of a strike is to win. And therefore it's with immense pleasure tonight that I want to start with a real win for PCS members. Very brave PCS members, 80 of them in Merseyside in Liverpool, who have been working for Hinduja Global Solutions in a private company in the disclosure and barring service. Those members have been on strike for many, many weeks because the employer was offering them a 3.5% pay rise when they are owned by some of the richest people in the world, and when our members have been doing a fantastic job, but are getting poverty pay and only offered a 3.5% increase. After weeks of strike action, members have overwhelmingly voted to accept a revised pay offer, which means that many people have secured a pay rise of over 10%. That would not have happened had they not been prepared to take industrial action. And I'm sure everybody on the call tonight will want to send our congratulations to those members and say that the win that they have had should hopefully inspire everybody else. Because if we can win in the private sector with a very tough employer, there is no doubt that if we all stand together, we can also win our very reasonable demands. So it's a big shout out to the reps, the members in HGS in Liverpool, but also to the many, many PCS members and activists who went and supported the picket lines, sent messages of support. But what it tells us is taking industrial action works, and it means that we can win. And I think that's where we should start tonight, because the action that we're taking next week, that was kicked off by thousands of your colleagues in December, is designed to win things off the government that they're not prepared to give us. And let's remember what it is we're seeking. We're seeking a 10% pay rise for all members, wherever they work, because inflation is over 10%. We've had a decade of real terms pay cuts. And unless we were to get a 10% pay rise, in reality, you will be poorer at the end of the year than you were at the start, even though you've worked harder than ever before. We should also, in saying why we deserve a 10% pay rise, remind ourselves we've been given the lowest pay rise anywhere in the public sector. We've had the lowest pay rates over the last decade anywhere in the public sector. And we face attacks from the government that is not being faced by many other people that we work alongside. That means the government's treating you worse than anyone else is being treated. If you want evidence, it is the fact that 40,000 civil servants are using food banks, 45,000 civil servants are claiming in-work benefits because their pay is so low. And astonishingly, last week, when the announcement of the increase in the national minimum wage was made clear by the government, it emerged that in HMRC and DWP alone, 47,000 civil servants will get a pay rise because they're on the living wage or the national minimum wage. That means people in those departments doing different graded work will get the same level of pay because the government has suppressed our pay for so long. It is an outrage, and it's something that we need to challenge. We would need to challenge it at any time, but when there's a cost of living crisis, when energy prices have gone through the roof, when real inflation for most of our members is 16%, it is something that isn't just something we deserve, it's something that we desperately need. But in addition, we're also seeking other things from the government, an assurance they will not cut our redundancy terms by the 33% they're threatening to cut them by, which will affect any member who works for PCS who potentially is seeing cuts made by government that could lead to redundancies. We want to see the money that we're overpaying every month for our pension given back. You're all paying 2% more than you should for your pension. Massive amount, £500 a year on average for a PCS member, and you were owed that money back from 2019. On that, I can confirm to all members tonight that we're not just taking strike action over that issue, but our long-awaited High Court case, where we are challenging the legality of what the government is doing, will be heard in the High Court next week on the 31st of January and the 1st of February. So I hope all members can see that we're not just taking industrial action, but we are also taking legal action to force the government to give us our money back and your money back. Finally, we're seeking reassurances and job security agreements for everyone to ensure nobody can be made compulsorily redundant when the government seeks to cut civil service jobs, as it is indicated is going to do. All of those demands are not just reasonable, they are ones that we need. We've tried everything to persuade them to treat us properly. We have met ministers countless times. We have lobbied MPs. We have written letters. We have signed petitions. We are also now taking legal action. But the government's response right up to the beginning of this week is to say that they will not put extra money on the table, and they are not yet prepared to give us all the other assurances that we need. Now, does that mean that they won't do it? Absolutely no, it doesn't. What it means is they haven't been prepared to do it yet. But if we can put pressure on them and make that pressure build and last over a period of time, in the same way as paramedics and nurses are doing in the NHS, in the same way that train drivers and train crew are doing in the transport sector, and in the same way as teachers will be doing on the 1st of February, and in the same way as lecturers are doing, all of us taking action is building real pressure on the government. And that's why there's lots of speculation that in different sectors, the government may be prepared to make concessions if they feel that they have to. And the importance of our strike in PCS is to ensure that if the government is forced to make concessions, we must get concessions along with everyone else. And that's why next week's strike is so critical. If we show them a solid strike across the whole of the union that we've called action, they will realise they cannot treat you worse than anyone else. And whilst we want teachers and paramedics and train drivers and train workers and everyone else to get a decent pay rise, we want one as well. We deserve this as much as everybody else. And on the 1st of February, there will be over 500,000 people on strike, and we will be the second biggest amount of people on strike next week after the teachers. So Fran, what I really just wanted to address quickly is why we believe next week can help build that pressure and how we think we can force the government to give us things that so far they've refused to do so. Firstly, I hope everyone here will join me in thanking the 5,000 PCS members, we're about to hear from Gary in a minute, who have bravely already taken industrial action. Everyone who's been on strike in the Rural Payments Agency, in the Driving Standards Agency, in the DVLA, in National Highways, in the Border Force and in the DWP have been striking, yes, to improve their pay and the pay for them and their families, but they've been striking for everyone else. Because our strategy is to get members doing key work to come out for sustained industrial action and support them financially, because that builds pressure on the government. And boy, is that pressure building. The Border Force strike alone meant the army was drafted in, only 5% of the normal checks at Heathrow took place, and it cost the government a fortune. In the DVSA, thousands of driving tests have been cancelled, costing them millions of pounds. In the Rural Payments Agency, the strike was so solid, it caused real operational problems for the government. And in the DWP, where we've had strikes, no person claiming benefit has had any benefit sanctions, and it's been a very different regime for the public to actually deal with than when our members are in work being told to do many of the things that the government insists they do. So our action is working and it's building, and our strategy is to keep that going. And in the coming weeks, we will be announcing a series of even more hard-hitting targeted action across the culture sector, across parts of the Home Office, and across other parts of the union. That's designed to keep the pressure on over many months. And can I say now, because we've had lots of questions, the levy that the union is making for 4 months of £5 a month for people on over £24,000 a year and £3 a month for under that is designed to ensure that colleagues taking sustained strike action on your behalf are financially supported by everybody else. And it's a way that by all of us paying in a small amount of money, albeit significant, it saves us having to call numerous unpaid strikes, which means all of us would struggle to afford the campaign that we want to wage on the government. So the sustained action is building pressure, and the more we do that, the more the government will feel the pinch. But the action next week, which does not receive strike pay, Fran, because 100,000 people will be out on strike and no union in Britain can pay strike pay to that amount of people taking action, is designed to show the government it's not just small numbers in key areas that are building pressure, it's all of us standing together. And that is why next week there are 2,600 workplaces being called out on strike, just shy of 100,000 members in 125 different governments and departments. Every single member who joins that strike puts us in a stronger position for the meeting we will probably end up having with the government towards the end of next week. Every member who supports the strike, every member who attends a picket line, every member who attends a rally to march with other workers who are also taking strike action means the civil service will not be seen as an easy touch and will make the government realise they've got to give us concessions as well as anybody else they may be considering them to do. So it's absolutely vital that we get the maximum amount of support. It's also important to mention, Fran, that whilst 100,000 of us will take strike action next week, we're now in the second week of reballoting a further 35,000 PCS members in places like HMRC who will be joining this strike by the end of February if we can win the ballots there. And the signs are that that is already going very, very well. So I'll finish with this thought, really. What we can see is that we've had 5,000 members already putting loads of pressure on. There's going to be many more doing that over the coming months. All of us will come out on strike next week, 100,000 in the biggest strike in the civil service and related areas since 2014. A further 35,000 members will be joining all of us by the end of February if we win their ballots. We will be joining up to 500,000 people on the 1st of February, but over 1 million other public sector workers who are still on strike, and others will be taking further action the week after next in the NHS and other sectors. Together, we provide vital services. We were clapped in the pandemic, but now they're condemning us all to poverty and misery at work. But we are showing them that we're not prepared to put up with it. So whilst we know people will make a sacrifice by losing pay next week, that sacrifice is absolutely worth it if the government realizes they cannot take you for granted. So to finish, Fran, we believe we're in the strongest position as a union we have been in for years. We've got over the undemocratic anti-union thresholds in 125 employers. We've taken action that has given us more media coverage than at any other time in the union's history. More of that action will come, and it will be equally high profile. We've got people joining the union at a rate we have not seen for years. We are now nearly 194,000 members. More young people joining the union than ever before. 1,000 people joining in DWP alone this month. 700 new joiners in the Home Office. The same is going on everywhere. And people are joining because they know that we are the best chance of forcing the government to do something about poverty pay, massive cuts in your living standards, and cuts in your terms and conditions. So I'll leave it there, Fran. I hope everybody gets a chance to ask their question. I hope we're all looking forward to listen to Gary speak, who's one of the inspirational strikers that I've been mentioning. But I'll finish with this thought. Do you deserve better? Yes, you do. Will the government give you better? No, they won't unless we can force them. Can we force them by taking strong action? Absolutely, we can. So let's make sure we do that next week. Let's make sure we put them on the back foot, and let's make sure this is the year you get better pay, your pensions money back, no cuts in your conditions, and no massive job cuts throwing people onto the scrap heap. Solidarity to everyone, and good luck next week.
Thanks very much, Mark, and I hope people have found that useful. Obviously, a lot of information in there. I'm going to just read out a few solidarity shout outs before I introduce Gary. So solidarity from DWP West Wales, DWP Durham County, DWP Tyneside and Northumbria, solidarity on behalf of the other 10 unions in the Trade Union Coordinating Group, DWP Bucks and Oxon, solidarity greetings from the PCS Bays Group to everybody watching tonight, DWP Tees Valley, solidarity from the National Black Members Committee rep in the Northern region, and that is enough to be going on with, I think. So over to keep the solidarity messages coming there, and as I say, I will get through as many as I can. And likewise, we're getting lots and lots of questions and comments, so I'll get through those as well. Okay, really pleased to introduce Gary Virgo. Gary has been on the picket line at Isleworth GVSA. He's, I think, Gary, unless you correct me, was a first-time striker at the time they took the action, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about his experiences. So Gary, really pleased you could join us tonight, and over to you. Can we unmute Gary, please?
Sorry, I can't find him. Give me a sec.
Okay.
I think I'm there now. Thanks.
That's it. Perfect. Got you.
Thanks, Fran, and thanks for Mark's opening comments. I think he's put our case forward superbly, as always. Thanks for everybody for giving me an opportunity to speak as well this evening. I think the reason I was asked is because, as Fran said, it was a first time for me to go on strike. And many of the people and my colleagues who came along with me were in a very similar circumstances. They'd never done anything like this before. We work for the civil service. We want to provide a service. The thought of not giving that service to the people that we come to work for day in, day out was scary. But we knew there was a reason why we had to do it. And Mark has eloquently expressed our case. What I want to do is talk to the people who've never been on strike before, and maybe give you an idea of some of the things that not only can you do, but what you'll actually gain from it. So not only are we showing our employers and the government of just how strong we are, but together we are stronger, no matter what they say. They'll put out press releases to suggest that we didn't do anything. A certain MP that we can talk about had already tweeted that when we all go on strike, nobody will notice, which is why a few of us just comically are going to order a few top hats in memory of that particular person. But we will be noticed, and people will know every little person, every little thing that you do, every person who goes on strike, whoever turns up at the picket line, whoever goes to a rally, that will be noticed. And the things that happened to me the week that we went on strike was I just had an oversensing feeling of pride of people coming together who were from different grades. I'm a driving examiner. My manager was there. Other managers were there. Different grades had come together. Historically, there'd always been a little bit of a divide potentially between those different grades. But because of this issue, we all came together as one. The support of the public that we had, don't be frightened of that. People were going past and beeping their horns and showing solidarity to everybody. Hardly anything was negative. A councillor stopped and had a chat. An old lady on a mobility scooter came along and asked what we were talking about and what we were doing. A neighbour across the road brought coffees and samosas were brought by ADIs and driving instructors. So if you are concerned about how you're going to be perceived by the public, if you do start a picket or you go on a rally, trust me, the passion and support that you get from those people is overwhelming at times. And the other thing to remember if you are going on strike, make it fun. I've already talked about a few of us in the DVSA are thinking of getting top hats. I'm sure we can all figure out the particular MP I'm talking about. But you make it fun, make it an opportunity for you to get together and connect with people. Now, I know there are so many different agencies that are going on strike next week. I will be open and honest and say some of you don't even know what you do. But we are all connected because we're all part of the PCS family. And even if you work from home or you think, well, what's the point of me going on strike or a picket because there's only me in my office, do it. Reach out to other people. Reach out to myself, other members of the PCS community. Take a picture of you at home with your top hat on or your feather boa, whatever it is that you want to do to suggest that you're at home showing solidarity to others, do so. You're not alone. That's the one thing that I've gained from this particular process, is that we are all in this together. I often jokingly say that this is the most engaged sort of activity my department has ever done. Different people from different parts of the country in different job roles have come together to stand together as one. I don't think we're asking for a lot. All we want to do is to be treated fairly and with respect. We're not asking for the world. And if that's too much for our employers to give us without us fighting, then that's what we'll have to do. Mark has already mentioned there's so many people at food banks and struggling. How many of us can honestly say in our working day, providing a service to the public, that our mind hasn't wandered because we're worried about paying bills, feeding the family? Are we able to give ourselves to our job 110% like we want to if we've got all these worries in the background? So these are the reasons why next Wednesday, as many of you as you can, we've got to come out and go on strike. Organise a picket, join a rally, sit at home, connect with your friends, do WhatsApp groups, post pictures on Facebook and different social medias, because when you see those pictures of other people doing what you're doing, you'll feel that strength of everybody coming together. And that's how that's what this whole process is about. It's a very, very serious cause that we're fighting for, but it also is bringing us all together. And that's what you'll get if you go out next week. So to everybody who's going on strike for the first time, good luck to you. And I salute you all because it's a very scary thing to do, especially if you've not been in this type of situation before. But I promise you, hand on heart, I'm sure you'll get a lot more out of it than you ever thought was possible. And I won't bother any more time. I think I've said enough.
Thank you very much, Gary. And so pleased that you could join us tonight. That's really good to hear. And I think the message that comes across loud and clear is that solidarity, isn't it? That idea that we're all standing together against what the government is doing. So thank you so much for that. I feel really guilty because when we started the meeting, I didn't introduce our diligent signer, Richard. He's our interpreter, in fact, and Richard does a sterling job making sure that the event is as accessible as possible. So thank you so much, Richard, for what you're doing, and real big apology for me that I didn't introduce you at the beginning. Okay, a few more solidarity messages then from the Office of National Statistics, solidarity. From the DWP Wirral Grant, let's send a huge message to the government on the 1st of February from the DFE group, from the DWP North East region, from Highlands, Islands and Grampian in Scotland. So thank you everybody who sent those messages in. Okay, so we're going to turn to the questions that we've received. As I say, we've been pretty inundated. So what I'll try and do is get a good spread of questions for Mark to answer. If there's something really quick and straightforward, I'll pick those up myself to save a bit of time. But if there are questions that seem to fall naturally together, then I'll ask Mark to respond on a few at a time. So the first question then, Mark, is from Gary Milner. And he asks, why have PCS given more than 14 legally required days notice? You were preaching before that we would not be giving more notice than we were legally required to do. And now we've announced the strike with more than 14 days notice. It might be worth picking that up to begin with, Mark, and I'll find some more. Can we unmute Mark, please? That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Gary. Well, in the targeted and sustained action, by and large, we are restricting the notice to the minimum amount of time given. But on this occasion, because it was an all-members strike and it was being taken alongside other unions, because people will realise it's not just us out on strike next week, there are 5 other unions. And the TUC has also called this as a sort of day of activity, urging every trade unionist in the country to get on picket lines, attend rallies, and to defend the right to strike against the government's legislation. Because it was part of a coordinated bigger day, it was announced earlier because all unions needed to get their messaging out at the same time. So that's the reason why this has happened, because we're not the only union on strike.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so Ed from ONS asks, is this being recorded? I won't be able to join due to childcare, but I really wish to hear what has been said. And I know Ed's not here, but clearly this is being recorded and we'll make sure it's widely shared afterwards. Joe asks, I'm considering striking, but I'm out of the country on annual leave on the 1st of February. Will this be a problem? Is there a requirement to attend a picket line or any stipulation about what we have to do on a strike day? I mean, just to pick that one up quickly, of course, we would encourage people to attend picket lines if they're able to do so and they're available in their area. But if you are out of the country and therefore unable to picket, then of course you can still take action. And whilst, as I say, we do encourage people to attend picket lines, it's in no way compulsory. And so, Joe, if you out of the country on the 1st of February, enjoy it and take the day as a strike day. Okay, Wednesday is my non-working day. How can I show my support? That's from Julie. And again, there are lots and lots of ways you can show solidarity, whether that's donating to a hardship fund if you wish to, sending solidarity messages. If there's a picket line near where you live, attend one of those. And lots of towns and cities are putting on strikers rallies, and it would be really good to get as many members as possible along to some of those. So there's lots of ways of showing solidarity if you're not actually able to take action on that day. Okay, so Dean says, and this isn't really a question, it's just a statement, but I think it's an important one. We need to get the message out about not logging on the 1st if we're at home. I think that's really important, Dean, isn't it? Since the last time PCS took national action, many of our members are working either completely at home or certainly on a hybrid basis. And the message that I think a lot of us have been putting out is don't log on February the 1st, and by logging on, you're actually you're contributing to work. So our simple message is not to log on at all if you're at home on the 1st. Okay, so Nicola Black asks, Mark, I've been asked by several colleagues why there's been such a delay since last June for us to be striking, and been asked if it's now worth it. What does a one-day strike achieve? And these have been the questions that I've been asked at work. So I think obviously Mark's explained in some detail that this isn't a one-day strike, but perhaps Mark, you'd like to come back on some of that.
Yeah, so thanks to Nicola for the question. So the first thing to say is obviously we have very, very difficult strike laws in Britain, and organising a legal ballot isn't easy. And actually, we didn't get the result of this ballot till November. And that ballot now gives us 6 months in order to pursue industrial action. Obviously, the aim of what we're trying to do here is to build pressure on the government. And that's why our strategy that we asked members to vote for this time was a combination of some people coming out for long-term periods of action, financially supported by the union, because that builds more pressure. So this is not just a one-day strike. We have already had, I think, over 120 days of strike action. Some members have been out for a month, some members for shorter periods of time, but that action is already building. And it's important to say that after the 1st of February, we will be announcing week by week some real hard-hitting action that is going to cause the government real difficulties. So that is a key part of the strategy. The one-day strike is the ability for us to show that everybody supports our campaign, that everybody is being prepared to take action. We're doing it alongside other unions as well. And the NEC will be meeting shortly after the 1st of February, when we'll see how well it's gone. We'll see what the government has to say to consider whether or not further action needs to be called if the government still refuse to even get into any further discussions. So the point here is not to do what we've done maybe historically, which is to have the odd one-day strike where we've not actually seen that win. This time, it is to build pressure over a period of time through some people out for long periods, then supported by mass action to build political pressure on the government. And believe you me, that is really building. And I think that's the key thing. But Fran, what I wanted to finally just say is links to your logging on point, is that what we need to understand here is the government hasn't yet conceded anything. They're clearly having a big internal debate about how to handle all these strikes because it's without precedent. What they're going to be doing on the 1st of February is pumping out information designed to say all is well, people aren't on strike, and most people are working normally. So every single employer, whether you work in an office of 2 people or 2,000 people, will be told by the Cabinet Office very early on the 1st of February, they'll have a phone call and they'll be told, right, they've got to collate the information. And that information, they will include people who are off sick, people who are on maternity leave, people on annual leave, and they'll badge it all together and they will say X amount of thousand are working. That's designed to try to say the strike hasn't that much support. So from our point of view, it is critical that everyone does support it, whether you're working from home, whether you're in a workplace, is do not report for work or do any work on that day. And remember, the more of us on strike, the more pressure it builds on the government, but also whichever of the 125 employers you work in, they'll all be looking at how it's gone in their area as well. And we don't just want to win pay and job security. We want your employer to treat you properly 12 months a year, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you know. So being seen to be strong in your own individual employer will also help the union negotiate better terms and conditions over a period of time, Fran. So I hope people can see from that, and Nicola can see, it's not just a one-day strike, it's part of a big program building pressure now over a number of months, and every single person striking next week will make it more likely that we will win something.
Okay, thanks so much, Mark. Okay, so a few more solidarity shout outs. So RPA Workington in Cumbria, DFE Manchester, Border Force Gatwick and Newhaven branch, PCS DWP Edinburgh, Lothian and Porters, Scottish Government Group, excuse me, and DWP South Humber and DWP North East and Mid Wales branch. Thank you all for those. There are quite a few questions about picket lines, Mark. So what I'll try and do is take a few of those together. So Catherine Price asks, as teachers are striking, can we bring our children along to the picket as the schools could be closed? And the answer to that is absolutely. I think people bring animals, they bring children, and the livelier and the noisier they are, the better, as far as we're concerned. Is there a maximum amount of people who are allowed on the picket line? And that's from Lauren Buckley. And Alex asks, practically, what should we do when we're on strike? Should we turn up to our usual place of work to picket? Should we attend a protest? Should we stay at home? So I don't know, Mark, if you want to just cover those questions more generally.
Certainly. The number one priority on the 1st of February is nobody does any work and everybody goes on strike. So that's our number one aim. The second thing is we'd like as many people who are on strike as possible to actively do something on the day, because we want to be very visible. We don't just want this to be about teachers. We want people to see these are job centres. These will be museums and galleries. These are going to be people in the department for levelling up, in transport, in the home, everywhere. So we want to be visible. So if people can get to a picket line, we want people to do it. So there are picket line regulations. We're issuing advice to all of our reps. And technically speaking, there should be 6 active picketers, but we want as many people as possible to be there. There's no limit on how many we can have there who are supporters and are being actively visible. So if you can now, following this call, ask your local rep or talk to your colleagues about going down on the 1st, the more the merrier. We've got placards, we'll have flags, we want to be visible essentially, so that as was mentioned earlier by Gary, you know, when cars are passing, they'll be beeping their horns, they'll be showing their support, and we want PCS to be very visible. So yes, bring your children. You know, we want this to be, we want management to know that we're not sitting silently back. We are actively supporting our dispute, and the more visible and the bigger and more vibrant, the better. In fact, we know from the DVSA that it got right under senior management's noses when the pickets were actually doing the business, and the DVSA, all the pickets have been fantastic. But I've seen people singing, playing tunes, singing Christmas carols, reciting poetry. We've had the works going on. We know we'll have people bringing goodies. There'll be samosas delivered in some areas. We want management not to think we're cowering at home, but to actually think that they can see we've had enough of low pay, job insecurity, and being treated really badly. So the more the merrier, and the more lively and more vibrant, the better. And on rallies, there's a list on the PCS website, and we're going to keep updating it. There are going to be hundreds of things going on the 1st of February. There's going to be everything from big TUC rallies in some major cities to marches, joint meetings, and we'll have PCS speakers at most of them, whether they're going to be local speakers or national speakers. And again, if you can get to one of these, it would be really, really great if you can, because again, when we do these meetings, we want people to see that yes, there's train drivers, yes, there's teachers, but yes, there's PCS members. So I think that's a bit of a guide. Definitely do not go to work, do not log on, be on strike. Yes, go to a picket line if you can and enjoy it. And yes, go to a rally if you can. And finally, Fran, to say we've set up a system where anyone who's having a picket line can log on and tell us. And we're asking people to take photos, to send in by whatever means you can send in reports, because what we want this day to be is a day where we can have a live feed saying, look what's happening in Workington, look what's happening in Aberystwyth, look what's happening in Perth. You know, wherever you are, we want your members to see that we've got pictures and that we're all in it together. And the thing that I can tell you now is there's nothing like a driving examiner in Aberdeen seeing somebody in the RPA in Exeter or Reading, or somebody in a job centre in Liverpool, one union, one set of people saying we deserve to be treated better. And I think that'll give everyone a lift. So I hope that's a guide to what we're hoping people do on the day, and the more the merrier.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Very quick practical question, which I'll pick up from here. How do I order a picket armband? There are order forms on the website. There are order forms made available in all the strikers' guides. and sooner you do that, the better, really, in terms of getting your picket material, whether that's armbands, whether that's leaflets, whatever else you want, go on and order it quickly. I've been asked to put a message out asking people to email organising@pcs.org.uk with your picket line details. What PCS essentially are trying to do is collate as details of as many picket lines as possible so that we can publicise those as well. So if you know that your branch are organising some picket lines and you haven't yet told anybody, do send an email to organising@pcs.org.uk. Okay, Mark, there's a few questions about overtime. A few people saying, why are the employer why are we still allowed to do overtime if there's strike action? And also, why are the employer offering overtime this weekend? It's disgraceful and shouldn't be allowed. So I don't know if you just want to address those points about overtime and whether the ballot mandate covered that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And in order for the union to tell people not to work overtime and have a collective decision, we need to have a specific legal ballot in order to do that. Overtime, of course, is voluntary, and many people will reach a conclusion that doing overtime for their employer at a time of a strike doesn't make sense. And it is a voluntary decision, but we can't tell people not to do it without a ballot. So what's happening now is in a number of the employers that are on strike, people have concluded that having also a mandate to work no overtime or an action short of a strike is a good thing in that employer, and people have asked for ballots on that, and where people are being asked to do that, we've agreed. And so what we're saying at the moment is obviously we support the strike. We've got action and pressure building in the targeted areas. If it's clear though that the government is going to try and ride this out, then we will need to build our pressure up. And for one of the things that may well follow in different employers, if people think it works, is an overtime ban and work to rule, but we'd have to have a separate ballot for that, Fran. So I hope that answers the question. But
Yeah.
just to remind people, I think it is something that we can say without a legal writ being chucked our way, is that what we do want is all 100,000 members to probably get in a mindset, we are in dispute. And it doesn't make sense if you're in dispute with people who are robbing us blind, who are condemning you to massive cuts in your living standards, cutting jobs, robbing your pensions, and that's what's happening to everyone. Does it make sense to offer them goodwill and voluntary measures and help them out? The obvious answer to that is no, it doesn't really, because we want them to realize that their workforce are not happy. You don't need a ballot to not show goodwill and do things that on other occasions you need to do. And I think it's important that we get that point over. But for where we are now, the single most important thing is everyone out on the 1st, very visible. Then when we meet the government, look them in the eye, they'll see that you delivered what we told them was coming. Then it's right to reflect, has that made a difference? And the government's got two choices. One of them is to say, well, you know what, we want to speed up and we do want to talk to you now and start putting things on the table. Or they'll just say, still the answer is no, in which case we'll need to go back and put the pressure on more. So I hope that gives people a feel for that question. But if in your employer, you're on tonight and you're thinking the union should ballot us about a work to rule and overtime ban, let your reps know. And if that's the view of people, we can arrange to do that employer by employer.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, Jamie Rumsey says DWP have sent an email about how some people are getting a pay rise due to the minimum wage going up, but nobody else will. So those of us in special location pay zones and in London are having our wages eroded further. Absolutely, Jamie. Mark made reference to it in his opening presentation that, in fact, in the DWP, 27,000 of its lowest paid workers will receive an enforced pay increase in April because their wages will have fallen for the first time below the national living wage. And that's a disgrace, and it's all the more reason why we need to be campaigning. Mark, there's a whole batch of questions, and I think we should probably address this quite clearly, both from people who are line managers saying, as a line manager, I've been told I need to ask my staff who will be on strike on the 1st of February and who will not. But PCS is saying that staff retain the right not to inform me whether they're on strike or not, which is it? And that's from Mike D. Amanda James says, health and safety policy says we have to report our absence to our line managers on the day if we're not attending work. So if we're picketing or striking, do we have to do that? And then there are others saying, should I put on my out of office that I'm striking so people know I'm part of that action? Do I need to do that? So, you know, there are lots of ways to answer this, but I think it might be good to give a very clear message about what's required of people, because I know there are a number of employers and line managers at the moment asking members whether or not they intend to take action on the 1st of February. So do you want to cover that now?
Yeah, so starting from the basics, we can't stop the management asking what they're going to ask, but nobody needs answer. They do not have the right to tell you, to force you to tell them what you're planning to do. And in fact, the very reason they're asking is so they can lay plans to make contingencies and everything else. So nobody is obliged to answer the question whether you'll be on strike or not. We have served legal notice, and in that legal notice, we have to tell them who our members are, who we are calling out on strike. That's all we have to do legally. That's all you have to do. So nobody needs to answer that question. And you know, I can only speak, you know, if I used to work in the DWP many moons ago, but if I was asked that question now, I would refuse to answer, because I don't think we need to do that at all. And you certainly don't need to, for any health and safety reasons, also on the day report in that you're on strike. We have served notice on them, and that is all you need to do. In fact, I think we would urge people not on the day to be contacting them, because that is engaging with the employer when we've withdrawn our labour, and we have a legal right to withdraw our labour. Finally, Fran, because I think it's important to say, we've had a legal ballot. It's very difficult to do. You have voted 87% yes to strike action. We have served the legal notices on them that we have to. Their lawyers have crawled all over it. We had all sorts of threatening letters. Not a single one of them has led to any challenge, because they know we've done it right. So we've done our bit. So now let's support the strike and let them worry about the rest. So you don't have to tell them. You do not have to report in. What we do hope you do is, on that day, first and foremost, you are a PCS trade union member withdrawing your labour because you're underpaid, overworked and treated, frankly, appallingly by the government. And this is our chance to show them.
Thanks, Mark. I think that's really important. Sheila Kendra says, you know, if we don't log on, do I need to let anybody know at work that I'm striking? Look, they can, as Mark says, they can ask, and you can't stop managers asking, but you don't have to respond, and you certainly don't have to notify anybody on the day while you're not in the workplace. So that's all part of it. It's covered by the legislation. So please don't feel pressured in terms of all of that. There is guidance on our website and on the PCS Union Facebook page as well around all of that, if people want a little bit more. But it's important to get that message across. I know it came up a lot in my branch today with people being asked and asking whether they needed to respond. So you know, if you feel more comfortable doing it this way, just say you haven't made up your mind yet, and that's perfectly acceptable as well. Okay, so there are a couple of questions about thinking ahead, really, about a reballot. So I'll read a couple of those out, Mark, if I can find them again. Just give me a second. Okay, here we are. So Gordon Nugent says, why does it seem, given the way that the government are treating us and other unions, it is likely that we'll have to ballot again after the initial mandate expires in May. Will a reballot, if needed, be carried out in time so that we can have seamless action without a large gap when this first mandate expires? So that's Gordon. And then Gavin Milner says, why does it seem we're wasting the time we have when we're allowed to strike by having gaps in between strikes? Trains and Royal Mail have had loads. I don't think PCS can say the same. Isn't a real pressure. And isn't a real pressure, and probably not utilising the time that we're allowed to strike for the reballot. So maybe you want to pick up the general sort of message around the reballot and where we are with that, Mark.
Yeah, so so thanks to Gordon and Gavin for those questions. So deal with Gavin's question first. When a union goes on strike, then it has a number of ways in which it can prosecute a strike. So for those who remember, we could call an all-out indefinite strike. So the last time, well, the one that most people would probably remember would be going back some time to the miners who were on strike, all-out strike, everybody out and down tools. Obviously, that's the most dramatic and biggest action you can take. The other side of the coin is you can just have a one-day strike, or you can have a series of short-term strikes in the way that the postal workers and RMT have. The conclusion that we reached in PCS and we balloted members on was that the single biggest concern that members told us in the ballot is they wanted to support the strike, but they were worried about being able to afford it. And in many ways, we all know how desperately difficult times it is for members. And so what we always have to juggle is how can you call the most action you can to build the pressure, but what can you deliver in terms of if you really know that there's real worries about managing in a cost of living crisis. So we came to the conclusion that a combination, excuse me, Fran, of targeted action where we are financially supporting members to come out long-term in key areas, with then asking people to take all-out action where we obviously couldn't pay financially because no union could afford to do that, was a really good combination of pressure because it's ongoing continuous action that really has an effect, and then everybody else comes in to support it. And that's what members voted for, and that's what we're doing. Because of course the aim of our dispute is not striking, it's to win. And therefore it's how we can maximize the pressure that we build. Now, this is the first strike that we've called, and we're hoping to be really solid. I mentioned earlier that we're about to announce a whole series of hard-hitting, sustained action in some parts of the union. But if it doesn't shift the government, we will have to come back to members and ask ourselves, should we be doing that again? Should that be something that we do more regularly? And Gavin is right to point out the RMT have had 21 days of strike action, and the Royal Mail, I think, had about 17. In both cases, they've done an amazing job. They haven't yet won what they're looking to win off the government. We honestly didn't believe from the feedback we had that we're in the same position and we could call 18 or 21 or 20 days of action. But look, you know, you're all members of the union and reps of the union. We'll have the 1st of February. We'll call a further targeted action. And if people feel we need to up the ante, then that is what the executive undoubtedly would be prepared to do. But the point is to build pressure to win. And this is why I do just want to use this point to say, Fran, we know that the levy, the temporary levy for 4 months, a lot of people were concerned about, or they wondered, could they afford it? Just want to stress that the aim of that levy is it is a lot less costly to pay £3 or £5 a month than what people lose every time we take a day strike action. And the money that you're paying, every single penny, doesn't go to the union. It goes to pay strike pay to people like Gary, people in the DVSA, the RPA in Workington, the Border Force, and all the others are coming. So I hope what people get from that is we're trying to be smart, build pressure, but try to minimize how much money people are losing. But look, if it doesn't work, if people think that we need to do more and go faster, then that's obviously, it's a democratic union. That is something undoubtedly we would want to consider. And on Gordon's point, I'm glad Gordon's pointed out, the laws are so tight that we go through everything we go through, and then in 6 months you have to do it all over again. We can run this action till the 7th of May. If we haven't won by the 7th of May, we either give up, which nobody will be wanting to do, or we will have to reballot. The National Executive Committee will be starting a discussion on the timing of any reballot pretty quickly, Fran. I can say to people now that obviously I don't think anybody would want a gap so that the mandate ends and then there's nothing that we can do. And therefore, we clearly may well be facing up to the prospect of having to reballot everyone again around about April if we wanted to keep the action seamless. Now, April's still a while away, but I'm glad that Gordon's raised it. You can see we are planning for all eventualities. I hope that actually we have made a real breakthrough way before then. But if not, we may have to go through the ballot again in order to keep the pressure up on the government. And if we want to keep it continuous, it couldn't be later really than April. So I hope that's an honest and upfront answer to both Gordon and Gavin. And the final thing I'd say, Fran, is I'm just going to keep the point, you know, everybody voted in this ballot. Our reps helped design the strategy, members voted for it. At any time, people think, you know what, we've given it a good go, but now we need to go faster. That's what's coming in from members and reps. The executive undoubtedly would want to listen to that. So do let us know your thoughts. But let's support next week first, and let's make sure that the government have something to think about, and then we'll continue the discussion about where after that if we don't get anywhere.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Just very quickly, Mike D, the employers told me that anyone who refuses to answer whether or not they're striking will be treated as being on strike and therefore not paid. Is this correct? I would ask that employer to put that in writing, Mike, because no, that is not correct, and they're trying it on. If they're prepared to put that in writing, I'd be very interested, and you can forward it to me if you like. Okay. Robin Elliott Marshall says, can I suggest creative placards pointing out that civil servants are having to use food banks, claim benefits, not just the typical placards from PCS. Also, anything that is amusing might attract more interesting media coverage, more interest in media and media coverage. And I think that's a really good point, Robin, because Mark, when he presented to us earlier, talked about the number of people claiming universal credit, the number of people using food banks. Journalists love that stuff as well. So if you've got something that's going to grab attention like that, a headline like that, that's stuff that we can use. Mark, is there anything you'd like to say on that?
Well, only some of the very best placards are homemade, and I would encourage people, if you've got a good turn of phrase and got an amusing thought, let's have some people making. A lot of unions, people are making their own placards, and they're fantastic. We will have a lot of generic stuff out there, and at this time of the day, like even if we open our Christmas crackers to look at all the jokes, I think we'd struggle to get amusing slogans out now. So there'll be a lot of generic PCS on strike, etc. But anything people can add to that would be helpful. And just to reiterate the point, the media will be all over. We're already talking to the media. We will get quite a bit of media coverage the day before and on the day. All the people who will be speaking to the media, and we hope that will be a lot of reps. There will be some members who speak to the media. There will be this key prompt list to get across the key things that need to be reinforced about low pay and terrible conditions. But I just want to give you an example. One of the picket lines I was on, Fran, was the DVLA in Swansea, and the media came down to interview people on the picket line. They did an interview with me. They did it with the branch secretary, but then they interviewed some ordinary members and new reps. And one of the reps gave an answer to say that the branch in Swansea was paying for free sanitary products for all members who worked there, were in the women's toilets, because in-work poverty meant that there were people working there and had families literally struggling to pay for sanitary products. Now, we didn't put that out in a press release. This was a member telling a journalist, and I tell you, it went viral, because the journalist said, I have been on picket lines with the railway workers, the health service. I hadn't heard that effect. And I make that point just because this was an ordinary member telling their story about what life was like for them. So, getting our message across, I think, is really important. We're doing so much to make it clear we are not bowler-hatted Sir Humphreys, which is the civil service thing that people think of, the Yes Minister. And we've got to really hammer that message home. We are some of the lowest paid, worst treated members in the public sector and in the economy. If you think about who's on strike next week, though, uniquely as a union, we have people who affect every single citizen of the UK from cradle until death. And that's the reality of the importance of the work we do, but it's not recognized. So let's use next week to get that across. And if you do have a snazzy slogan and a homemade placard, take a photo and send it in so that we can spread that around and let it go viral.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And we're always looking for stuff like that. So yeah, please send that in to us. El Syed asked, it makes a really good point, actually. And you must have read my mind, because I've been in a meeting about this today. It's a shame that the security staff couldn't be involved in this action. Them going on strike would have immediately closed all the job centres. And it's a long-running bugbear of mine. I think that they are represented by the GMB and therefore haven't been balloted. So you're quite right, they wouldn't be able to take part in this action. But that is a conversation that we're having with the GMB around all of that. But it's a really good point. And as you say, it would make us very strong, wouldn't it, if we could do that? Okay. There is a question that I think you probably would like to answer, Mark, from Chris Panayotou, which is, do we feel like our strike action will be diluted given that we're striking on the same day as other organisations?
So that's a really good question, Chris, because in one sense, you can already feel that there's going to be an awful lot of interest in schools being out on strike, right? There hasn't been a national teaching strike for years. They'll be on strike. Anyone who's got a child in school is going to face some disruption on that day, and it'll be their first strike. So we should prepare for the fact that the teachers will get a whole host of coverage next week. And of course, you could take the view, well, if we weren't out on the same day, does that mean we get more coverage? But you have to balance that with, we have argued for a long time that the more unions who strike at the same time, the more that shows that there are tens and hundreds of thousands, millions of people all being faced the same, and we are united. We don't want special pleading. We want nurses to get more pay and teachers, but we need it as well. We think all public sector workers deserve to keep pace with the rate of inflation. So the idea of unions coming out together gives it more of a, on that day, 5 different unions across a whole range of the economy. When that's covered by the media, it shows that the government don't just have a problem with one set of workers, they've got a problem with millions of people across the board. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we're hoping, that there will be more unions joining as well. I think I should say that as we speak, firefighters are just coming to the end of their ballot, postal workers are reballoting. People may have picked up that the FDA have just balloted the fast stream in the civil service and won a massive vote for industrial action amongst the fast stream. So there is union after union after union going to be on strike, including shortly physiotherapists and other health workers. So yes, there's a risk that we may, we won't get all the coverage about us, but I think that's probably outweighed, and we are part of a growing amount of people across this country who've said enough is enough, and I think that helps build political pressure on the government.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Look, there's loads of DWP specific questions, in particular in relation to work coaches. We probably won't get time for them tonight. So can I suggest that if you have a question that's specific to the DWP that we haven't covered, just email in dwp@pcs.org.uk and we'll ask the group office there to pick those up and respond to you. There are a couple of questions, just in response to Dawn, who says, my manager said, we don't know we're on strike, they will have to invoke a welfare check. Again, ask them to put that in writing. It's just not correct. They are perfectly entitled to ask you what you intend to do. They're not entitled to follow you up with a welfare check on a strike day if you haven't responded. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. Okay, there are a couple of questions, Mark. I'm conscious of the time, so probably are getting towards the end. But Laura Whittingham says, we've been told by our managers not to talk to the media as there may be disciplinary action. What does PCS think about that? And in a similar vein, Jordan asks, you in an email, PCS said, your local reps will be getting in touch with you in the run up to the strike and will be able to help with any questions you may have. But my local rep has said they can't discuss strike action on work premises. Now, Mark, I'm going to hand over to Mark to respond. Just on that point, it is correct that people can't put material in relation to strike action using departmental systems. However, the idea that you can't actually mention the word strike is a little bit different. Do you want to come back on those, Mark?
Yeah. So firstly, to anyone on here, our reps across the country are doing a fantastic job. Yeah. And obviously this is the busiest time of all. And as we've heard from some of the questions, some of our employers are nasty, vindictive pieces of work, right? We are standing up for ourselves and our families and our futures. And it is completely out of order. What you've got here is various levels of pressure bordering on intimidation. And this idea of welfare checks and everything else, these are people who are supposedly not bothered. They don't think anyone's going to notice. Well, they're not acting like that, are they? They're acting like there's mass panic breaking out in lots of places. But if you are individually asked and you feel unsure, come to us for advice, because Fran is absolutely right. They have no right to do these things to people. They wouldn't put this stuff in writing, and they really should not be putting people in that position, but come to the union. On the question of the reps, and if your rep says they can't discuss anything, look, we are all here, though. We've got reps on the front line who some of them are facing a tough time from the employer as well. Is you can email in, you can ring us, you can contact us through the chat. If anybody needs anyone, we will either try and get a local rep to deal with it, or somebody from your group executive committee, depending where you work, or a union's full-time officer. So you're not alone. That's the key point. And just come and ask, and somebody will come and speak to you or contact you by email. In terms of the question about speaking to the media, it is not unlawful to speak to the media. And people, we supposedly still live in a democratic country, but we are advising everyone to make sure that you get help and support and advice from PCS. So, you know, there are things that we do want people to say. People can make it clear they're speaking on behalf of the union, and people can make it clear they explain why they're on strike. If we look around all the other disputes, you see nurses, you see paramedics, and you will see teachers all doing media interviews explaining why they are actually on strike. But we don't want anyone to expose themselves to any vindictive employer who may try to trip somebody up. So if you're going to be on a picket line, or if you're going to be approached by the media and you need any advice, we have advice on our website, but again, talk to someone. But I just want to make the point, it is the genuine voice of people who are at work, who are suffering from the government's policies, that is often the most powerful. So, you know, that's a general, I think, sort of rule of thumb on that question.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, Lorraine says, I'm partially retired. Can I go out on strike? Yes, you can, Lorraine, absolutely, and hopefully you will. Okay, as I say, for the DWP specific stuff, do email the inbox, dwp@pcs.org.uk. I know Sarah Whiting is trying to get responses on specifics around universal credit diaries and work coach diaries, but this is obviously PCS wide Facebook Live, so we would ask you to direct them to the group office. There are a couple more solidarity messages, and then I'm going to ask you, Mark, if there's anything you want to say in summing up, because I am conscious of the time. So solidarity from the Forestry Commission branch, student finance in Wales, and solidarity from National Highways, PCS, and enjoy the picket lines, and that's Mark Dollar. Okay, so Mark, anything you would like to say in closing?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for giving up their time, Fran, and I want to thank everybody who's helped organise the meeting, yourself for chairing, Richard for his sterling job there with the interpreting, and all our people behind the camera who are working so hard. I want to thank everybody for turning up, but most of all, I just want to finish really with where we've started. Everybody knows that we're being treated appallingly. We all know the government can afford to deal with what it is that we're asking for. And I think we all know that having come this far, if we do not now push on to be successful, what that inevitably means is the government will carry on as it is, and next year and the year after will potentially be equally as bleak. So this is our moment. We found it difficult over years to beat the anti-union ballot thresholds. We've done it this time and we've smashed it. We've seen 5,000 people kick this campaign off by taking incredible action, up in all sorts of freezing weather, wind, rain, snow, making a stand on behalf of everybody on this call and every member of the union. More of that is to come. But you know you need more money. You know you need job security. You need to be treated better at work, and you need to stop being robbed of your pensions. We know that. We know the government at the minute is saying no. But next week they can really see that we mean business. So my finishing message is, for every person who goes on strike next week, it makes winning more likely. For every person who goes on a picket line, it makes winning more likely. For every person who goes on a rally, does their own placard, gets the message across, it makes winning more likely. And that is what we need. So it's good luck to everyone. Remember, you can still ask colleagues at work who aren't in the union to join. We're growing at a rate like we've never seen before. Make sure you go on strike. Make sure, if you can, you participate on the day and send your reports in, so that on the 2nd of February, what the government will realise and the Cabinet Office Minister will realise, but equally important, what every one of your employers' senior management will realise is we mean business, we've had enough, and they need to do better. If we stick together next week, that is more likely. And that's my final message. Let's make it the biggest, best supported day we've ever had. Let's look forward to 35,000 more members joining us with the people who are currently reballoting. And let's make sure that just like paramedics and nurses and train workers and postal workers have been doing, standing up for themselves and their families, we show everyone in this country next week that we as PCS members are standing up for us, our families, and the services we deliver. So good luck, solidarity, and let's make sure it's a fantastic day.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and thank you everybody as Masters for joining us tonight and giving up your time. Let's make next week a massive success, and we can do that together, can't we? We can encourage our colleagues to join us on the 1st of February. If anybody's not yet in the union, we've still got time to recruit them and ask them to support the 1st of February. And if you're unsure about anything, as Mark said, there are a number of us you can contact. You can email into PCS and we will get you answers in advance of that. So take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and please keep in touch, and good luck on the 1st. Send us your pictures. Thank you. Good night.